The morning shift bell rang through the Galactic Archive station, and Hanna walked to her desk just like any other day. Her shoes made soft clicks on the metal floor as she passed rows of workstations where aliens from dozens of worlds sat, typing and reading files on their screens. Hanna looked like the most boring person in the room. She wore a plain gray uniform that fit her small frame perfectly. Her black hair was pulled back in a simple style that never changed. She carried the same worn tablet every day and always sat in the same chair at desk number 47. The key, other workers barely noticed her. To them, she was just another human data clerk who processed forms and updated files. Nothing special, nothing dangerous. If only they knew the truth. Hanna powered on her terminal and began her daily routine. First, she checked the overnight requests for species information. The archive held detailed records on every known intelligent race in the galaxy. Governments, researchers, and traders all came here when they needed to know about alien biology, culture, or history. Today there were 12 requests waiting in her queue. Most were simple things like updating population numbers or adding new colony locations. But one request made Hanna pause. It came from the Corvan Empire Military Command, asking for complete files on human settlements near their border worlds. Hanna kept her face blank as she read the request details. The Corvans wanted to know which human colonies had military bases and which ones were just civilian settlements. They also asked for shipping routes and defense patrol schedules. This was not a normal research request. This was intelligence gathering for an attack. Hanna approved the request and began gathering the files just like she was supposed to. But while her fingers typed and clicked, her mind was already planning what she would do that night. The Corvan delegation was staying in quarters on level 12 of the station, 3 military officers and 2 civilian advisors. They had arrived 5 days ago, claiming they wanted to improve trade relations with nearby human worlds. But Hanna knew better. She had known better for 3 years now. "Hanna, do you have the Zelkari files ready yet?" asked her supervisor, Vec Thorneye. The Zentorian had 6 arms and used all of them while talking, making hand gestures that looked like he was conducting an invisible orchestra. "Almost finished, sir," Hanna replied in her quiet voice. She never spoke loudly or drew attention to herself. "I just need to verify the population data." Good. The Zelkari ambassador wants them by lunchtime." Vec's 4 eyes blinked in different patterns, which meant he was pleased. "You always get things done on time, Hanna. Very reliable." Reliable. That was exactly what Hanna wanted him to think. She finished the Corvan files and sent them through the secure channel to their military command. Then she began working on the Zelkari request, all while thinking about the intelligence reports she had read in the hidden files last night. The Corvans were planning to attack 3 human agricultural worlds in the Kepler system. They thought humans were getting too close to their territory and wanted to send a message. The attack would happen in 2 weeks, during the harvest season when the colonies would be most vulnerable, unless someone stopped them first. At lunchtime, Hanna ate, alone in the cafeteria like always. She sat at a small table near the window and watched the alien ships coming and going from the station docks. Trader vessels, diplomatic cruisers, research ships. All of them brought more aliens who might someday decide that humans were a threat. "Mind if I sit here?" asked a voice in Korean. Hanna looked up to see Won Junho, one of the other human workers at the station. He had arrived 6 months ago as a technical specialist, helping maintain the archive's computer systems. To everyone else, he seemed nervous and unsure of himself, always asking questions about how things worked. But when he spoke to Hanna in their native language, his voice was different. More confident, more dangerous. "The Corvan files went out this morning," Hanna said quietly, also in Korean. She kept eating her soup and did not look at him directly. "I saw the transmission logs," Junho replied. He sat down and opened his own lunch container. "Interesting timing. Their fleet movements match what you expected. The intelligence was accurate. They will move in 12 days. And tonight? Tonight we prevent that from happening." Junho nodded and switched back to speaking. "Standard Galactic. The weather simulation programs are acting up again. I might need to work late to fix them. I have some filing to catch up on too, Hana agreed. Probably be here until after midnight. They finished eating in silence. To anyone watching, they looked like two boring human workers complaining about their jobs. Nobody paid attention to boring humans. After lunch, Hana returned to her desk and continued processing requests. She updated colony population numbers for the Hydron Collective. She filed new research data on Vrex breeding cycles. She answered questions about trade routes through TechSpace. All normal, boring work that kept the galaxy running smoothly. But as the day went on, Hana was also making other preparations. She sent a request to maintenance for cleaning supplies to be delivered to level 12. She logged into the station's air circulation system and noted which vents connected to the Corvin quarters. She checked the duty roster for security guards and memorized their patrol schedules. The Corvins thought they were safe on a neutral station surrounded by dozens of alien species. They thought their plans were secret. They thought the quiet human data clerk who had processed their files was just another harmless worker. They were wrong about everything. When the night shift began, most of the archive workers went back to their quarters to sleep or relax. But Hana stayed at her desk, typing and reading files under the dim emergency lights. A few other workers were scattered around the huge room, finishing their own tasks or working on projects that could not wait until morning. At 11 o'clock, Junho walked past her desk carrying a toolbox. He nodded at her once and continued toward the maintenance access tunnels. 30 minutes later, Hana gathered her things and left her desk. Instead of going to her quarters on level 8, she took the elevator down to level 3 and walked to a storage room that was always empty at night. Inside the room, behind boxes of old data storage devices, was a hidden panel that most people would never notice. Hana opened the panel and pulled out a small black case. Inside the case were tools that no data clerk should ever possess, chemical compounds that could stop an alien heart in minutes, devices that could slice through locks and security systems, weapons designed to kill quietly and leave no obvious traces. Hana clipped the tools to her belt and pulled on a dark jacket that would help her blend into the shadows. Then she made her way toward level 12, using maintenance passages and service corridors that did not appear on any public station maps. She had studied those corridors for 3 years. She knew every camera, every sensor, and every blind spot between her current location and the Corvin quarters. By tomorrow morning, the galaxy would have 5 fewer threats to human expansion, and everyone would still think Lee Hana was just a boring data clerk who never caused any trouble. 3 weeks had passed since the Corvin delegation disappeared from the archive station. The official report said they had suffered from a rare alien disease that affected their breathing systems. All 5 Corvins were found dead in their quarters on the same morning, and their bodies were quickly shipped back to their homeworld for burial. Hana sat at her desk, processing the daily requests just like always. But she noticed that fewer species were sending delegations to the archive now. Word was spreading through the galaxy that something dangerous might be happening at the neutral station. "Another database error," muttered Kel Morvac, the crystalline being who worked 3 desks away from Hana. His voice sounded like wind chimes when he was frustrated. "The Thek collective files are completely corrupted. Population shows 0, but that cannot be right." Hana looked up from her screen with a concerned expression. "Have you tried running a system diagnostic?" "I ran 3 diagnostics already. The data is just gone, like the entire species never existed." This was the 5th species file to show major corruption in the past 2 weeks. First the Corvins, then the Razorclaw Syndicate, then the Militant Order of Vega. Each time, the species records became unreadable or showed impossible data like 0 population counts. What the other workers did not know was that each corrupted species had been marked as a threat to human expansion in classified intelligence reports. Reports that only Hana and Junho had access to. The morning continued with more strange news. 3 diplomatic missions had gone silent in the past week. Their ships had left the archive station but never arrived at their destinations. Search and rescue teams found no wreckage, no distress signals, and no survivors. Director Cal Beshan called an emergency meeting at noon. The massive insectoid Virex stood at the front of the main conference room, his 6 legs clicking nervously on the metal floor. Behind him, a large screen showed the corrupted database entries and missing ship reports. "We have a serious problem," Director Beshin announced in his buzzing voice. "Someone or something is attacking the archive's database systems. Worse, our diplomatic guests are disappearing. I want every department head to review their security procedures immediately." Hana raised her hand. "Director, I would like to volunteer for the investigation team. I have experience with database maintenance and I might be able to help identify the source of the corruptions." Several aliens turned to look at her with surprise. The quiet human data clerk rarely spoke in meetings and never volunteered for extra work. "That is very thoughtful of you, Hana," Director Beshin replied. "I will assign you to work with Chief Technician Junho. You can start this afternoon." Perfect. Hana had hoped to get assigned to the investigation, and working with Junho would give them cover to move around the station freely. They could continue their real mission while pretending to search for the cause of the database problems. After the meeting, Hana and Junho went to the technical levels of the station. These areas were less crowded and had many hidden spaces where they could talk privately. "The Zelkari Federation is getting suspicious," Junho said in Korean while they walked through a corridor lined with computer servers. "Their ambassador asked too many questions about the missing ships." "Then they will be next," Hana replied calmly. "Intelligence reports show they are planning to form an alliance against human trade routes. We cannot let that happen. 5 species. In 3 weeks might be too fast. The others are starting to notice the pattern." Hana stopped walking and looked at him seriously. "Junho, we have our orders. Human colonies are depending on us to eliminate threats before they can organize. Every day we wait gives them more time to plan attacks on our people." They spent the afternoon planting false evidence in the archive's computer systems. Hana created fake error logs that pointed toward the Zelkari Federation as the source of the database corruptions. If anyone investigated deeply enough, they would find data suggesting that Zelkari hackers were trying to steal information about other species. Meanwhile, 3 more alien delegations died mysteriously in their quarters that night. The station medical staff found no signs of violence or obvious causes of death. Each species appeared to have suffered from different natural ailments that affected their particular biology. But Hana knew the truth. Human science had developed weapons that could target specific alien biologies. A chemical that stopped Vrex hearts looked completely different from one that shut down Hydron breathing systems. To medical examiners who were not looking for artificial causes, the deaths appeared natural. The next morning brought panic to the archive station. News of the overnight deaths spread quickly through the corridors and work areas. Alien workers gathered in small groups speaking in hushed voices about the mysterious plague that seemed to be affecting different species. Director Beshin called another emergency meeting, but this time only half the department heads showed up. The others had locked themselves in their quarters or demanded transfers off the station. "This cannot be a coincidence," declared Commander Tal Nexus of the Hegemony Defense Corps. The tall, gray-skinned warrior had been at the archive for 2 months, supposedly researching military history. But Hana suspected he was actually gathering intelligence on other species' military capabilities. "Someone is deliberately targeting specific species," Tal Nexus continued. "The deaths are too convenient, and the database corruptions always happen to the same species that lose their diplomatic teams." Hana felt a small chill of concern. The hegemony commander was smarter than she had expected. If he kept investigating, he might discover evidence that pointed toward human involvement. "What do you suggest we do?" asked Director Beshin. "Lock down the station. No one leaves until we find the killer. And I want to examine the personal belongings and quarters of every worker here, including the humans." Several alien heads turned to look at the small group of human workers sitting together near the back of the room. Hana kept her expression neutral, but inside she was calculating how quickly she could eliminate Tal Nexus if necessary. "That seems extreme," said Dr. Kim Yuna, the human xenobiologist. "We should not assume that any particular species is responsible without evidence." Hana was grateful for Yuna's support, even though the scientist had no idea what she was really defending. Yuna genuinely believed in cooperation between species and had come to the archive to study alien biology for peaceful purposes. Evidence is exactly what I intend to find, Tal Nexus replied coldly. Starting tonight, I will be conducting informal interviews with all station personnel. Anyone who refuses to cooperate will be considered suspicious. The meeting ended with tension, thick in the air. As the aliens filed out of the conference room, many of them gave suspicious looks to their colleagues from other species. Trust was breaking down, and fear was taking its place. That was exactly what Hana wanted. When the alien species were afraid of each other, they were less likely to unite against humanity. But Tal Nexus remained a problem that needed to be solved, quickly. As Hana walked back to her desk, she began planning her next move. The hegemony commander would have to disappear before he could discover too much, and his death would need to look like an attack by one of the other alien species, not humans. The investigation was about to take a very personal turn. Dr. Kim Yuna could not sleep. She lay in her small quarters on level 9, staring at the ceiling while her mind raced through the data she had collected over the past week. As the archive's head xenobiologist, she had access to all the medical reports from the mysterious deaths, and what she found troubled her deeply. Every dead alien showed traces of compounds that appeared natural to their species, but were too perfect, too precise. The chemical that killed the Corvins existed in nature, but only in a plant that grew on worlds thousands of light years away from the archive station. The toxin that stopped the Vrex hearts came from a fungus that should not have been present in the station's air supply. Someone was manufacturing these substances and using them as weapons. Yuna got up and walked to her desk computer. She pulled up the files on all the species that had died or disappeared since the Corvin incident. Then she cross-referenced them with recent political reports and trade disputes. The pattern was clear. Every single species had been involved in recent conflicts or disagreements with human colonies. The Corvins had been claiming territory near human settlements. The Thek Collective had been blocking human trade ships. The Razorclaw Syndicate had been raiding human mining operations. But correlation was not proof. Yuna needed more evidence before she could make any accusations, and she had to be very careful about who she shared her suspicions with. The next morning, Yuna decided to approach Lee Hana directly. The human data clerk had volunteered to help with the investigation, which could mean she was genuinely concerned about the deaths, or it could mean she wanted to stay close to the investigation to control what was discovered. Yuna found Hana at her usual desk, quietly processing files while the rest of the archive buzzed with nervous energy. Many alien workers had requested transfers off the station, and those who remained jumped at every unexpected sound. "Hana, could I speak with you privately?" Yuna asked in Korean. "I have some questions about the database corruptions." Hana looked up with her usual calm expression. "Of course, Dr. Yuna. Would you like to use one of the research rooms?" They walked together to a small conference room on the science level. Yuna closed the door and activated the privacy shield that would prevent their conversation from being overheard. Then she turned to face the woman she suspected might be a killer. "I have been studying the medical reports," Yuna said carefully. "The compounds that killed our alien colleagues are very sophisticated. They appear natural, but they are too specific to be accidents or natural diseases." "What are you suggesting?" Hana asked. Her voice remained perfectly steady. "I think someone is manufacturing bioweapons designed to target specific alien species. Someone with advanced knowledge of xenobiology and access to rare chemical compounds." Hana was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "Do you have any idea who might be capable of such a thing?" "Only one species has the technology and the motive," Yuna replied. "Humans." The silence stretched between them for several seconds. Yuna watched Hana's face carefully, looking for any sign of guilt or fear, but the data clerk's expression remained unchanged. Finally, Hana spoke. "Dr. Yuna, what you are suggesting could start a war. Are you certain about your evidence?" "The evidence points to human involvement, but I am not certain about anything else. I was hoping you might have some insight, since you have been working on the investigation." Hana stood up and walked to the small window that looked out at the docking bays. Several alien ships were departing, their crews no longer feeling safe at the archive station. Yuna, may I ask you something? Do you believe that humans deserve to survive and expand through the galaxy? The question surprised Yuna. Of course, every species has the right to grow and find new homes. Even if that expansion threatens other species? Even if those other species decide to eliminate humans before we become too powerful? There must be ways to coexist peacefully. Hana turned away from the window and looked directly at Yuna. What if I told you that every species that has died here was planning to attack human colonies? What if I showed you intelligence reports proving that they wanted to drive humanity back to Earth and keep us trapped in our home system? Yuna felt her heart beating faster. Are you saying that humans really are responsible for the deaths? I'm saying that sometimes survival requires difficult choices. The Corvins were going to attack 3 agricultural worlds and kill thousands of human farmers. The Thek Collective was planning to blockade our trade routes and starve our outer colonies. Should we have waited for them to act first? You are talking about murder, about genocide. I am talking about preventing genocide. Our genocide. Yuna sank into a chair, overwhelmed by the implications. Hana, who are you really? You are not just a data clerk. No, I am not. I am Commander Lee Hana of Human Intelligence Division. I have been stationed here for 3 years with orders to identify and eliminate threats to human expansion. And Junyo? My handler and backup, he helps with technical support and covers my activities. Yuna put her head in her hands. This is insane. You cannot just kill entire diplomatic delegations because you think they might threaten humans in the future. Why not? Hana asked coldly. They would do the same to us if they had the chance. The galaxy is not a peaceful place, Yuna. It is a competition for resources and territory, and only the strongest species survive. There has to be another way. Name one. How do you negotiate with species that see human expansion as an invasion? How do you make peace with aliens who think the only good human is a dead human? Yuna could not answer. She had always believed in scientific cooperation and peaceful coexistence, but she had also read the political reports. Many alien species did view humanity with suspicion and fear. What happens now? Yuna asked quietly. Are you going to kill me too? That depends on you, Hana replied. You can join our mission and help us identify the most dangerous threats to human survival. Or you can try to expose us and risk starting the very war we are trying to prevent. And if I refuse both options, then you become a threat that needs to be eliminated. Yuna understood. She was trapped between impossible choices. Help Hana, commit murder, or become a victim herself. Either way, her conscience would be destroyed. I need time to think, she said. You have until tomorrow night. Commander Tal Nexus is getting too close to the truth, and he has to be stopped before he can alert his superiors. I could use your help making his death look like a natural cause, but I will do it with or without you. As Yuna left the conference room, her mind was spinning with questions and fears. She had always thought of herself as a loyal human who wanted the best for her species, but she had never imagined that the best might require becoming monsters. Meanwhile, Commander Tal Nexus was in his quarters, reviewing security footage and personnel records. He had found several inconsistencies in the human workers' backgrounds, and he was beginning to piece together evidence of their real identities. His investigation was racing against time, and he did not know that time was about to run out. The archive station continued its orbit around the neutral world, but neutrality was becoming a luxury that no one could afford. The war for galactic dominance was already being fought in the shadows, and soon it would burst into the light for everyone to see. Dr. Kim Yuna spent the entire night in her laboratory, running tests on tissue samples from the dead aliens. She had equipment that most medical examiners did not have access to, and she was determined to find proof of what Hana had admitted. Under her most powerful microscope, she finally found what she was looking for. Tiny molecular structures that were too perfect to be natural. The bioweapons had been designed by human scientists and manufactured in advanced laboratories back on Earth. The evidence was clear, but Yuna still did not know what to do with it. If she exposed Hana and Junho, it would reveal that Earth was systematically murdering alien diplomats. The other species would unite against humanity and declare war. Billions of people on both sides would die. But if she stayed silent, Hana would continue killing, and eventually, the aliens would discover the truth anyway. The war would happen regardless, but humanity would be seen as the aggressor species that struck first. At dawn, Yuna made her decision. She could not be part of genocide, even if it was meant to protect her own species. She began preparing a yobai, detailed report of her findings, planning to transmit it to the archive's central database where all species could access it. But as she worked, alarms began ringing throughout the station. Commander Tal Nexus was found dead in his quarters at 0600 hours. The hegemony warrior was discovered sitting at his desk, apparently having died while reviewing security footage. The station medical team said his death appeared to be caused by a brain aneurysm, a condition that sometimes affected his species when they were under extreme stress. Yuna knew better. She ran to the security office and demanded to see the footage that Tal Nexus had been watching when he died. The security chief, a nervous Centaurian named Cole Brewis, showed her the files. The commander was reviewing personnel records and movement patterns for the past month. He seemed to think someone on the station was not who they claimed to be. Yuna studied the footage. Tal Nexus had been tracking the movements of the human workers, comparing their schedules with the times when alien delegations had died. He had found correlations that proved Hana and Junho were in the right places at the right times to commit the murders. But the most damning evidence was a piece of security footage that showed Hana entering the maintenance tunnels on level 12 just hours before the Corvin delegation was found dead. She was carrying equipment that had not been logged with station security. Did the commander share this information with anyone? Yuna asked. He was planning to present his findings to Director Beshin this morning. He also prepared a message to send to his fleet commanders, but he died before he could transmit it. Yuna felt sick. Hana had murdered Tal Nexus just hours before he could expose the truth. Now the only evidence of human involvement was sitting in computer files that could easily be deleted or corrupted. She had to act quickly. Yuna copied all of Tal Nexus's files onto a portable storage device. Then she went looking for Director Beshin, intending to show him the evidence before Hana could destroy it. But when she arrived at the director's office, she found Hana already there. "Dr. Yuna," Director Beshin buzzed in his insectoid voice. "Hana was just telling me about some irregularities she found in the station's air circulation system. She thinks someone may have been using the ventilation shafts to move around unseen." "How interesting," Yuna replied carefully. She noticed that Hana was sitting very close to the director's desk, within easy reach of the insectoid's breathing apparatus. "Yes, it explains how our unknown killer has been accessing secured areas without being detected," Hana said with fake concern. "I recommend we seal all the maintenance tunnels and increase security patrols." Yuna realized what was happening. Hana was setting up another murder, right here in the director's office. She was going to kill Director Beshin and make it look like an accident or natural causes. "Director, I need to speak with you privately about Commander Tal Nexus's investigation," Yuna said urgently. "Of course. Hana, thank you for the report. Please begin implementing the security upgrades immediately." Hana stood up, but instead of leaving, she moved closer to the director. "Actually, sir, I think Dr. Yuna should hear this too. I found something else in the maintenance systems that might be relevant to her research." Yuna saw Hana's hand move toward a small device on her belt. She had seconds to act before the director died. "Director Beshin, get away from her!" Yuna shouted. "Hana is the killer." The massive insectoid reacted instantly, his 6 legs launching him backward away from his desk. At the same moment, Hana drew a small weapon and fired it at the space where the director had been standing. Alarms began ringing as the director's emergency beacon activated. Security guards would arrive within minutes, but Yuna did not know if that would be soon enough. "You made the wrong choice, Yuna," Hana said coldly. She pointed her weapon at the xenobiologist. "I gave you a chance to help protect humanity, and you decided to betray your own species." "I decided not to become a monster," Yuna replied. She held up the storage device containing Tal Nexus's files. I have proof of what you have been doing. The evidence is already uploaded to the archives. Mine database. No, it is not, Hana said with a smile. Junho has been monitoring all data transfers since yesterday. Nothing gets uploaded without our approval. Director Beshin was speaking rapidly into his communicator, calling for security and medical teams. But Yuna noticed that Hana did not seem concerned about being discovered. That could only mean one thing. You are planning to destroy the entire station, Yuna said with horror. You are going to kill everyone here to cover up your crimes. Not everyone, just the witnesses. And it will not look like murder. It will look like the station suffered a catastrophic system failure caused by alien sabotage. Humanity will be the victim, not the aggressor. Security guards burst through the office door, but they were not the aliens Yuna expected to see. They were humans wearing stolen uniforms, and they were carrying weapons designed to kill aliens quickly and quietly. Junho and I are not the only human operatives on this station, Hana explained as her fake security team surrounded Director Beishin and Yuna. We have been placing agents throughout the Galaxy Archive for years, waiting for the right moment to implement final protocols. Final protocols? Yuna asked. The complete elimination of alien species records and the witnesses who might expose human involvement. By tomorrow morning, this station will be a debris field, and the galaxy will believe that alien conflicts destroyed the greatest repository of knowledge in known space. Director Beishin clicked his mandibles in what Yuna recognized as the insectoid equivalent of laughter. You underestimate us, human. We are not as helpless as you think. The director pressed a hidden button on his desk, and suddenly the office was filled with a high-pitched sound that made the human operatives cover their ears in pain. It was a frequency that affected human hearing but did not bother most alien species. In the confusion, Director Beishin grabbed Yuna and pulled her toward a hidden exit behind his bookshelf. This way, Doctor. We must reach the emergency broadcast system before they recover. As they ran through hidden corridors toward the station's central core, Yuna could hear Hana shouting orders to her team. The final phase of the human plan was beginning, and they had very little time to stop it. Behind them, explosions began rocking the outer levels of the station as Hana's operatives started destroying evidence and eliminating witnesses. The battle for the archive had begun, and the stakes were nothing less than the truth about humanity's role in galactic politics. The question was whether anyone would survive long enough to tell that truth to the rest of the galaxy. The Galactic Archive Station shook as explosions tore through its outer sections. Emergency lights flashed red in the corridors, while automated voices announced hull breaches and atmospheric leaks in a dozen different alien languages. Dr. Kim, Yuna followed Director Beishin through maintenance passages she had never known existed. Behind them, they could hear human voices shouting orders and the sound of weapons fire, as Hana's operatives hunted for survivors. How many aliens are left alive? Yuna asked as they climbed through a narrow tube toward the station's central core. Perhaps 30 or 40, Director Beishin replied, his 6 legs moving with surprising speed through the cramped space. Most of the diplomatic delegations were eliminated during the night. Your commander, Hana, was very thorough. They reached a heavy door marked with symbols in several alien languages. Director Beishin pressed his hand against a scanner, and the door slid open to reveal the archive's central control room. Inside, Yuna saw the survivors of the human attack. 3 Zentorians huddled around a communications console, trying to send distress signals to their home fleets. A pair of crystalline Morvacs were working frantically to back up the archive's databases before they could be completely destroyed. Near the main screen, a Hydron diplomat named Ness Kolwar was treating wounded aliens with medical supplies from an emergency kit. Dr. Yuna, Ness Kolwar said in his gurgling voice. Thank goodness you are alive. We feared the humans had killed all of their own species to eliminate witnesses. Not all of us were part of their plan, Yuna replied, but I have evidence that proves what they have been doing. She connected her storage device to the main console and began uploading Tal Nexus's investigation files. As the data appeared, on the screens around the room, the surviving aliens studied the proof of systematic human murder. This is worse than we suspected, said Kel Morvac, the crystalline being who had worked near Hana's desk for years. His voice chimed with anger and fear. They have been planning this genocide for decades, not just months. The files showed that human intelligence had been identifying potential threats to human expansion for over 20 years. Species that controlled strategic resources, trade routes, or military technologies were marked for elimination. The archive station was just the latest phase in a larger plan to remove obstacles to human dominance. "We must warn our governments," Director Beshin said. "If we can transmit this evidence before the humans destroy the station, our fleets will know the truth." But as they worked to boost the communication signal, new explosions rocked the central core. Hana's operatives had found their location and were blasting their way through the outer doors. "How long until our fleets arrive?" asked one of the Centaurians. Director Beshin checked the long-range sensors. 16 hours for the nearest ships, but several human vessels are already approaching. They will arrive first and claim that they came to rescue survivors. Yuna realized that the human plan was even more sophisticated than she had imagined. Earth's government would send ships to investigate the archive disaster, and those ships would destroy any evidence of human involvement. The galaxy would be told that alien conflicts had destroyed the neutral station, giving humanity an excuse to increase military patrols in the region. "There has to be a way to get the truth out," Yuna said desperately. "Not if we are all dead," replied Nes Kolwar. The Hydran diplomat was sealing the inner doors, but they could hear cutting tools working on the other side. "Your commander, Hana, will not leave any witnesses alive." As if summoned by his words, Hana's voice came through the communication system. She had hacked into the station's internal network and was broadcasting to the survivors. "Dr. Yuna, I know you are in the central core with the remaining aliens. I want you to know that this is not personal. You are good people who made bad choices, but humanity's survival is more important than individual consciences." "Hana, you are insane," Yuna replied through the comm system. "This will not save humanity. It will make us the enemy of every species in the galaxy. Only if they find out the truth, and after today there will be no evidence left to find." The cutting sounds grew louder, and sparks began flying from the sealed doors. The human operatives would break through within minutes. Director Beshin made a decision that surprised everyone. He activated the station's self-destruct sequence. "What are you doing?" Yuna asked in horror. "If we are going to die anyway, we can at least deny the humans their victory," the insectoid director replied calmly. "The archive's destruction will look suspicious if it happens right after alien fleets arrive. But if the station explodes, now while only human ships are nearby, the other species will ask questions. You will kill us all. We are already dead, Dr. Yuna. But our sacrifice might prevent a galactic war by exposing human treachery." The cutting stopped as Hana realized what was happening. Her voice came through the comm system again, but now she sounded desperate instead of confident. "Director, be reasonable. If you destroy the station, billions of beings will lose access to the archive's knowledge. Countless research projects will be lost forever. Better than letting murderers control that knowledge," Director Beshin replied. But Yuna had an idea that might save both the evidence and some of the survivors. She began working frantically at one of the science consoles, using her access codes to bypass security systems. "What are you doing?" asked Kel Morvac. "Creating a data burst transmission. If I can compress all the evidence files and broadcast them simultaneously to every major government in the galaxy, some of the messages might get through before the station is destroyed." The sealed doors finally gave way, and human operatives poured into the central core. But instead of weapons, they were carrying portable force field generators. "Nobody move," Hana commanded as she entered behind her team. "Director Beshin, step away from the self-destruct controls." "Too late," the insectoid replied. "The sequence cannot be stopped now. We have 12 minutes before the station's fusion reactors overload." Hana's calm facade finally cracked. She had spent 3 years planning this operation, and now it was falling apart. Her team could not evacuate in time, and the explosion would destroy all the evidence she had tried to eliminate. "You are condemning your own species to war," Hana told Director Beshin angrily. "No," Yuna said as she finished programming the data burst. "You did that when you decided that murder was acceptable. I am just making sure the galaxy knows the truth about what humanity has become." She activated the transmission, sending thousands of compressed data files racing toward every inhabited system in the galaxy. Some would be intercepted by human military forces, but others would reach their destinations and reveal the scope of the human conspiracy. Hana raised her weapon to shoot Yuna, but Director Beshin moved faster than anyone expected. The massive insectoid knocked the human operative backward, giving Yuna time to complete the transmission. "It is done," Yuna announced. "The evidence is spreading through the galaxy. Even if you kill all of us, the truth will survive." For a moment, everyone in the central core stood frozen. Then Hana made her final choice. She triggered a personal explosive device that she had carried as insurance against capture. "If I cannot complete my mission, at least I can eliminate the primary witnesses," she said with cold determination. But her sacrifice was not as complete as she had planned. The explosion damaged the central core but did not destroy it entirely. Some of the survivors were killed, but others were protected by emergency barriers that sealed automatically when they detected the blast. As the station began its final countdown to destruction, the survivors worked together to reach the emergency escape pods. They had 6 minutes to evacuate, and they carried with them the proof that would change the galaxy forever. Behind them, the galactic archive burned, taking with it the accumulated knowledge of 1,000 worlds. But the truth about humanity's secret war was now spreading through space at the speed of light, racing toward governments and fleets that would soon face a terrible decision. The age of peaceful coexistence was ending, and the age of species war was about to begin. The escape pod tumbled away from the dying archive station as fusion reactors began overloading deep inside the structure. Dr. Kim Yuna watched through the small viewport as the massive station that had been her home for 2 years prepared to tear itself apart. Inside the cramped pod with her were the last survivors: Director Cal Beshin, 2 Zentorians, 1 Morvac, and the Hydron diplomat Nes Kolwar. They were the only witnesses left alive to tell the galaxy what had really happened at the archive. "Transmission confirmed," reported one of the Zentorians from the communications panel. The data burst reached 17 major worlds before human interceptor satellites could block it. "The evidence is spreading." Through the pod's sensors, they could see alien fleets arriving at the edge of the system. Ships from the Hegemony Defense Corps, the Zelkari Federation, and a dozen other species formed a loose blockade around the dying station. They had come to investigate the disaster, but now they were receiving data files that told a very different story than they had expected. "Human ships are also approaching," Director Beshin observed. His damaged voice buzzed with pain from injuries suffered in Hana's final explosion. 3 heavy cruisers and a diplomatic vessel. Yuna knew what would happen next. The human ships would claim they had come to rescue survivors and investigate the tragedy. Earth's government would express shock and sadness at the loss of the archive, while secretly celebrating the elimination of evidence that could have exposed their murder campaign. But the plan had failed. The truth was out, and now both sides would have to deal with the consequences. The archive station exploded in a flash of light that briefly outshone the system's star. Debris scattered in all directions, carrying with it the remains of the greatest library in galactic history. Thousands of years of accumulated knowledge, art, and culture were lost forever. "So much destroyed," whispered Kel Morvac, his crystalline form dimming with grief. "Centuries of research, irreplaceable cultural records, scientific discoveries that cannot be recreated." Yuna felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on her. By helping to expose the truth, she had also contributed to the archive's destruction, but she reminded herself that Hana and her operatives would have destroyed it anyway to cover their crimes. The human diplomatic vessel was broadcasting on all frequencies now, requesting permission to dock with the alien rescue ships. Admiral Kim Dae-ho, Earth's senior representative in this sector, appeared on the communication screens with an expression of carefully crafted concern. "This is a tragedy for all civilized species," Admiral Dae-ho declared, in perfect galactic standard. "Earth stands ready to assist in rescue operations and to help rebuild what was lost here today." But the alien fleet commanders were no longer interested in diplomatic pleasantries. They had received the evidence files, and their responses were swift and angry. "Admiral Deho," came the voice of Hegemony Fleet Commander Vex Kolanis. "We have information suggesting that human operatives were responsible for the deaths at the archive station. We demand immediate surrender of all human personnel for questioning." "That is a serious accusation," Admiral Deho replied smoothly. "Earth categorically denies any involvement in these tragic events. We are prepared to submit to any reasonable investigation." Yuna knew that Earth's government had been preparing for this moment for years. They would have false records, fake evidence, and plausible explanations for every accusation. The truth would become just another competing narrative in a galaxy full of conflicting stories. But the alien species were no longer willing to give humans the benefit of the doubt. "Admiral, this is Commander Tal Vekris of the Zentorian Defense Fleet," announced another voice. Yuna recognized the name as Commander Tal Nexus's younger brother. "My brother died investigating human activities at the archive. We have his files and we know what your people did." The diplomatic communications devolved into accusations and threats. Within hours, the loose alliance of alien species began coordinating their military responses. They declared human space to be under quarantine and demanded that Earth surrender the operatives responsible for the archive murders. Earth's response was predictably defiant. President Park Min-ho appeared on galactic news networks to condemn what he called alien aggression based on fabricated evidence. He announced that Earth would defend its colonies and citizens against any unprovoked attacks. But Yuna knew the truth that neither side was willing to admit publicly. This was not about justice or fabricated evidence. This was about fear. The alien species feared that humanity would continue its expansion by eliminating competitors. They had seen what humans were capable of, and they decided to stop the threat before it grew larger. Humanity feared being overwhelmed by alien coalitions that could destroy Earth's colonies and trap the species on its homeworld. They believed that aggressive expansion was the only path to survival in a hostile galaxy. Both sides were probably right. The rescue pod was picked up by a hegemony warship, where Yuna and the other survivors were debriefed by military intelligence officers. She told them everything she knew about the human operation, providing details that corroborated the evidence files from Tal Nexus's investigation. "Dr. Yuna," asked Commander Vex Kolanis after reviewing her testimony, "do you believe this conspiracy goes all the way to Earth's government?" "I believe Earth's leadership authorized the elimination of threats to human expansion," Yuna replied honestly. "But I also believe they genuinely see it as necessary for human survival." "And what do you see it as?" "Genocide. Premeditated murder of entire species based on the possibility that they might someday threaten human interests." The hegemony commander studied her carefully. "You are willing to testify against your own species? I am willing to testify for the truth. What happens after that is up to the galaxy to decide." Within days, the evidence became undeniable. More human operatives were discovered at other stations and facilities throughout alien space. Some surrendered when confronted, while others chose to fight and died in the process. The scope of the human intelligence operation was larger than anyone had imagined. Earth's colonies found themselves surrounded by hostile alien fleets demanding evacuation. Some colonial governors chose to fight, leading to bloody battles that killed thousands on both sides. Others negotiated peaceful withdrawals, abandoning settlements that humans had spent decades building. But the worst was yet to come. As Yuna had predicted, Earth's government activated what they called archive protocols on worlds throughout human space. Any alien species living within or near human territory were designated as potential security threats. Some were expelled from human worlds, while others simply disappeared during the night. The galaxy learned that the archive station massacre was not an isolated incident, but part of a systematic campaign that had been ongoing for decades. Human expansion had been built on the graves of species that most people had never even known existed. The war that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of traditional battles between armies, it became a conflict of extinction. Both sides believed that only one outcome was possible: complete victory or total annihilation. Human colonies burned under alien bombardment. Alien worlds were poisoned by human bioweapons. Entire star systems became graveyards where nothing could live. Una spent the war years as a witness and advisor to the alien coalition, helping them understand human psychology and tactics. She never returned to Earth, knowing that she would be executed as a traitor if captured by human forces. Sometimes she wondered if she had made the right choice in exposing the truth. The war might have been avoided if the evidence had remained hidden. Billions of beings might still be alive. But she reminded herself that the war was inevitable once humanity chose the path of preemptive genocide. The only question was whether it would happen before or after humans had eliminated enough species to ensure their victory. The archive station had burned, taking with it the dream of peaceful coexistence between species. In its place rose a galaxy where survival meant the destruction of everyone else. Humanity had wanted to ensure its place among the stars. Instead, it had created a universe where no species was safe, and trust between civilizations had become impossible. The humans had gotten their wish. They were no longer seen as harmless data clerks and diplomats. The galaxy now recognized them for what they truly were, the most dangerous predators in known space. But in a galaxy at war, being the most dangerous predator also meant being the primary target for everyone else, and there were many more of them than there were humans. The final outcome remained to be seen, but one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same again. The age of archives and peaceful cooperation was over. The age of species survival had begun. And in the end, Una realized perhaps that had been humanity's plan all along.